Okay, so I'm making this video here for my upper level students about using integral tables to solve physics problems. For my students, the links to these resources are on Blackboard, but I'm also going to try and describe it enough that you can go find them if you aren't one of my students or can't access Blackboard right now. So going through here, I'm just going to bring up my Blackboard course and where I've got the math resources. So one of the first places you can go is OpenStax, which is a free open source textbook, and it has things like calculus books, and when you go to the table of contents, down at the bottom, well, they've got basics of integration and applications, but they also have a table of integrals here. And so it'll pop up here. It takes just a moment here, but some basic integral forms here. And so if you've got something that you're trying to do, it gives you the basic rules for how to do them. I'm just going to grab one of these for right now just to copy over to show and compare sort of what we're seeing in these different versions. So this is just the basic integral of sine of u du. And so over here, I can put down calculus textbook, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in here my image that I grabbed from that particular thing. Now, one of the things that I'm going to point out to you guys here is that if it's got boundary conditions, that helps us to evaluate this. In general, you've got some sort of constant of integration when you do these. So if I was doing this particular one, I would have to specify either which bounds I'm doing this over or specify something about the constant of integration. We'll look at some more examples of that later. Now, besides that, there are also some resources. So again, I'm going to come back over here, go back to my thing here, and there are things like this integral tables. And so it's just a website that has some of the same basic ones in here, and you sort of scroll through until you find something of the form that you're interested in. And so it might have the ones with the trig functions a little bit further down on the list, but it has more in here. So if I look at this table, I've actually got, let's see, as many as 131 different ones, versus the table of integrals in my calculus book had 113. So about the same amount, but it gives us some different ones that we might be able to go in and find. And there's a similar sort of structure in here in that it's got, other than the basic integrals, it'll go through and say, okay, well, here's your ones that have trig in them. Here's the ones that have exponents and logarithms in there. Here's the ones that have inverse functions. Here's the ones that have this sort of thing. And in our other integral tables, again, there's some organization in there in terms of, do I have trigonometric functions, or do I have functions that involve exponents, or each of these different cases. The integrals with roots here was a little bit closer, but we have some of these basic things. And so there are also internet tables which may have a little bit more. So I'm just going to put down here again that you've got integral table websites. And so it has the same ones, but it might also have different ones. Now, since we've been talking about things here that are more paper-based ones, even though we're seeing them online, textbooks, websites that have PDFs of things, There's another one that I want to show you guys here in terms of looking at this, and this is the CRC. So I actually have a copy of the CRC in my office that has all sorts of little tabs in it, but it's available online. This one happens to be a link from the Stony Brook math department at the Stony Brook University, but it's this particular textbook. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to mention that we have the CRC tables. Now the thing about the CRC tables is it has a lot more than just the integral tables. And if we look at the table of contents over here, what we see is that the integral tables are one part of a section on continuous mathematics. And so this is within Chapter 5. And it's got differential calculus, differential forms, integration, and then it's got a table of indefinite integrals with all sorts of different forms here. And I think these might be active links, so we can actually come over here to the table of integrals. And so there's a lot of it in here. As a matter of fact, this particular table has not 100 and something, but going down to have, keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. It has something in the realm of 709 different forms in here, okay? And so it's got more than this, but what it does have is a much more full table. And I'll mention here that it's got other math equations as well. So this is a really good resource, but it might be overkill because if yours is on the common table that's in the back of the calculus textbook, you don't have any need to go through and look at the full table. So now some other resources. These are more online ones. Even though you can access these online, they basically come down to documents that have them in there. And so I'm going to add a new category here, and we're going to call this interactive. Solvers, tables, etc. So when we go to these ones, again, I've got these links in my textbook, and I've got to jump back here to my textbook. And unfortunately, when I backed out, it caused me some issues there. So just be patient with me here for a moment in my course content, in my general resources. Some of the online stuff. So Wolfram Alpha is a math site that gets used a lot. And again, it can have some really good ones on here. So I can come over here and I'm going to mention Wolfram Alpha. And they've got just a basic site. And they have an integral site. And depending on what you're trying to do, you could put in things here, and it's got an example here. And you can put natural languages, integrate something, but you can also put in here the specific formulas. And depending on what you're integrating, you have a lot of functionality. You can actually do multiple integrals. There's derivative ones here. You can come in and put in square roots and sine functions. And when you've got it in and you hit the equal sign, it will pop up, oh, this particular integral has this form to it. So we might have more in here that we could do than are going to be in your normal one, and you don't have to search through the table to find it. So this is the sort of thing that you might get from Wolfram Alpha. So I'll put this in as an example here of what we can do with our Wolfram Alpha. So that's a different integral than the one I had up here, but it goes through and allows you to do some different things. Now I also have another one that I've linked to that I actually like way more than the Wolfram Alpha, and that's this integral calculator. So the integral calculator here is a different one where I can go through, and it's got what the visual is, but it's also got this. So you have to type this in. So let's say I was going to come in here and I just want to do the basic sign of, let's make it U, and with respect to variable of integration, I want to do U. Okay? And you can set upper bounds, you can set simplify, you can do different things in terms of the examples here. And then I can say go, and it will give me a result. And in this case, it's not very complicated, so I don't really have to show how I was doing all of that. But it could potentially show how you do this. So this one, once again, gave me a value that when I calculated a particular one, I can go through and grab that particular image. Okay? And for completeness over here, I'm just going to say that this is the integral calculator. And let's see here, that is just integralcalculator.com. So I will grab this as well to put in for those of you who might want to use this particular one. Make that a little smaller. Now, because of the age we're living in, I want to go ahead and acknowledge that we have AI chatbots and other such things. And I'm going to add in here just a caveat that some are better than others. I'm not going to recommend a particular one, but if I just go through here, and even if I just go to Google and I say something about the integral of sine u du, and you might have to be a little bit more precise, and I do a search on that, it will bring up different things, and it will give me something here that allows me to see how it was done. So when I come over here, I can put that example in as well. Now, one thing that you do want to check when you do this is that when you do something like this, you want to see where it found this from. And so here it's looking at this where different sites have shared what they have, and so that's where it's grabbing this from. So it gave the first one up here, but then it goes through, but it also has other things and videos for how to do this. So that may actually be something nice. Just be a little careful with letting AI find your answer, that it's going to find a correct answer. So this is an overview. I'm going to make another video looking at some integrals that my students have had to work with recently and seeing how we do this a little bit more carefully.